Getting older, it just kind of sneaks up on you. One day you're helping your kid move into their first apartment, and the next you're squinting at a menu, wondering when restaurants started using such tiny fonts. And let's be honest, aging isn't just about the gray hairs or the aching knees. It's a whole new chapter, a profound shift in how life feels, and nobody really gives you a manual for it. But here's the good news. While there are some tough realities about getting older, talking about them openly, sharing the stories, the struggles, the laughter, makes them so much easier to bear. So today I want to walk you through what I believe are the hardest parts of aging, the things no one really prepares you for. And more importantly, I want to show you why none of them have to break you. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's have an honest chat about what it really feels like to grow older. First on our list is the truth that your body has a new operating system. It's like your old body, the one you've been running on for decades, suddenly got a mandatory software update you didn't ask for. All the familiar shortcuts are gone. The apps don't work the same way. The systems you took for granted now have bugs. One day you wake up and realize your body has been swapped out for a different model, and you're just left to figure out the new controls on your own. My grandfather used to say his knees would throw a party every time he climbed the stairs, and he was the one who had to clean up the mess afterward. Those phantom aches just show up, like telemarketer calls you can't block. You bend down to tie a shoe, and your back sends a sharp text message saying, "That's going to cost you." Or you decide to have a late-night snack, and suddenly you're wide awake at 3 in the morning with heartburn, regretting every single bite. The real challenge isn't just the physical changes. It's the mental adjustment. You used to be able to bounce back from anything, a long night, a twisted ankle, a heavy meal. Now, recovery takes longer. Even a good night's sleep seems to require a recovery period. It can feel deeply unfair, like a betrayal from your own body. But here is the profound shift. This new operating system forces you to become more deliberate and mindful. You learn which foods are truly good for you. You discover that stretching isn't just a quirky habit, but an act of self-preservation. You begin to appreciate the small moments of success, like walking a few extra blocks, without your legs complaining. And maybe the most surprising realization is this. You start having full-blown conversations with your own limbs, like coaxing a stubborn mule. It sounds silly, but it's also a powerful reminder that your body, even with its new quirks, is still showing up for you every single day. It might be running slower, but it's also a lot wiser. Learning this new system is just another adventure, and you're the pilot. Next, we have the observation that your friend circle gets smaller. It's a quiet truth about aging that no one really talks about. When you're younger, your social calendar is often overflowing. There are birthday invites, spontaneous dinner plans, work happy hours, a constant social buzz. But as the years go on, that vibrant circle begins to shrink. Sometimes friends move away, sometimes you simply grow apart, and sometimes, tragically, they pass on. It's a reality we often push to the back of our minds, but are the very real part of the aging process. I once came across a man's online post where he talked about hitting his mid-60s and realizing his weekends were so much quieter. Not because he wanted them to be, but because his group of friends was down to the ones who still had the energy to get together. That sentiment can really hit you. Aging can feel like watching chairs slowly disappear from a table you've always sat around. But here's the flip side of that coin. The people who stay at that table are the ones who truly matter. The friendships you maintain aren't the casual grab-a-beer-after-work type. They are the friends who show up at the hospital without being asked. You start to value that kind of deep, unwavering loyalty more than a calendar filled with casual acquaintances. This smaller circle also pushes you to connect in new ways. Maybe you start calling your cousin more often, or you build a friendship with the neighbor who always waves from his porch. I've heard so many stories of older adults who've made friends online who feel just as close as family, proving that friendship isn't limited by age or geography. And let's be honest, having fewer friends also means fewer obligations. You no longer have to pretend to enjoy a terrible dish at a potluck or force yourself to attend every single gathering out of a sense of guilt. You get to pour your energy into the people who truly matter, the ones who make you laugh until your stomach hurts. The circle might get smaller, but in so many ways, it gets stronger and more meaningful. Third, we find that the world speeds up without you. Have you ever felt like the world is on fast forward, and you're stuck on pause? Technology is a massive part of this. One minute you're so proud of yourself for mastering email, and the next your grandkids are rolling their eyes because you don't know how to airdrop something. What even is an airdrop? When we were kids, dropping something meant you had butterfingers. I heard a man once say he could fix a lawnmower blindfolded, but he nearly had a breakdown trying to pay his electricity bill online. The world just keeps upgrading its gadgets, its slang, and its culture at a speed that makes you dizzy. Cash isn't good enough anymore, you have to tap your phone. Movies aren't rented, they're streamed. Even the word stream meant something entirely different when we were kids. It had fish in it. And it's not just tech. Social trends, music, even humor evolve so quickly that you can feel like a tourist in your own lifetime. I once saw an online comment from someone who said, "I don't mind being old, but I hate feeling outdated." That can sting, can't it? You used to be right in the middle of everything, and now you're half the time on your phone trying to figure out what a new slang word means. But here's the secret perk to all this. When the world speeds up without you, you don't have to sprint to catch it. You can actually step aside, let it zoom past, and live at your own pace. There's a quiet joy in choosing not to care about the latest app or the newest viral trend. You trade that fear of missing out or FOMO for a genuine joy of missing out or JOMO. While everyone else is stressing over likes and followers, you're enjoying your tea, your book, or your garden. And honestly, that feels like winning. Next, a tough one to talk about. You start seeing yourself disappear in society. For many people, the hardest part of aging isn't the physical pain or the confusing gadgets. It's the quiet sting of feeling invisible. You might walk into a store and younger people don't really seem to notice you. You offer an opinion in a group and it gets brushed off. Even doctors sometimes talk around you instead of to you, as if you aren't in the room at all. This feeling of being unseen can creep up on you, and it truly hurts. A woman I spoke with once told me, "I used to turn heads when I walked into a room. Now I feel like wallpaper." That's a heartbreaking and powerful way to put it. You start blending into the background. Society has a tendency to value youth and productivity so much that once you're past your prime working years, it's like people forget you have stories, wisdom, and a whole personality worth listening to. It's frustrating because you haven't disappeared. You've just shifted. You have decades of experience under your belt, but instead of asking for your wisdom, the world seems to want you to step aside for the new generation. This can make you feel like you're not needed anymore, and that's a dangerous feeling. But this is where things can turn around. Many people eventually realize that invisibility can actually be a kind of superpower. When you stop being the center of attention, you stop performing for others. You can finally do exactly what you want without worrying about what other people think. Nobody's judging your outfit, your hobbies, or your choices. They're too busy looking at their phones. You can wear bright socks with sandals, order dessert first, or spend the afternoon singing with your dog. And no one bats an eye. That's an incredible amount of freedom. And let's not forget, you may feel invisible to strangers, but to the people who truly matter, your kids, your grandkids, your close friends, you are unforgettable. You are their anchor, their storyteller, the person who has lived enough life to offer a perspective no Google search can ever replace. Fifth, let's talk about how memories become both sweet and heavy. Memories are funny little things. They sneak up on you when you least expect them. You hear a song on the radio, and suddenly you're 17 again, driving around with the windows down, without a care in the world. Or you smell freshly cut grass, and it transports you back to summer evenings when the kids were little, chasing fireflies in the yard. Those moments feel like treasures. They are the kind of memories that can make you smile until your face hurts. But, and here's the part nobody prepares you for, memories also get heavy. Because as you look back, you realize so much of what you're remembering is now gone. The people you laughed with, the pets who curled up at your feet, even the houses you once called home, they exist only in those memories now. And that is a truly bittersweet feeling. I once heard a gentleman say, and it really stuck with me, that he didn't know the last time he tossed a baseball with his dad was going to be the last time. That's the kind of truth you only truly understand when you get older. It's not just the sadness of loss, but the overwhelming weight of time. You start to see how quickly it passed. And sometimes that realization can be an emotional gut punch. But here's the upside. Those memories are also powerful reminders of how rich your life has been. They're proof that you loved, you laughed, and you lived fully. And when you share them, whether it's telling your grandkids about the first concert you went to or joking with an old friend about the dumb things you did in your 20s, you're keeping that past alive. Memories may be heavy, but they also keep you tethered to what matters. They're like little bookmarks reminding you that you've had a story worth telling. Sixth on the list is that the little everyday tasks become big missions. You don't realize how much you took for granted until bending down to tie your shoe feels like a military operation. I'm not kidding. There's a strategy involved now. You size up the laces like they're an opponent, saying to yourself, "All right, I'm going in. If I don't make it back, tell my family I love them." And don't even get me started on jar lids. Those things become your sworn enemies after a certain age. I've seen people on social media joking about using wrenches, rubber gloves, or even calling a neighbor over just to open a simple jar of pickles. It's truly humbling because these were once things you did without a second thought. Carrying in all the groceries in one trip, climbing a flight of stairs, even getting out of bed used to be just background noise in your day. Now, each of them has a little negotiation attached. But here's where it gets funny. You start to celebrate victories that younger people wouldn't even notice. You wrestle with a stubborn jar lid for 5 minutes, finally pop it open, and it feels like you've just won a gold medal at the Olympics. Or you make it through the grocery store without forgetting why you went in the first place, and you feel like you deserve a parade. Small things become big wins, and there's a strange kind of joy in that. You also adapt. That's the real secret. You get gadgets to help. You find new ways to do things. You learn to pace yourself instead of powering through. I knew a man who bought one of those grabber tools, the kind that looks like a giant claw, to pick up things around the house. He called it his third arm and used it so often he gave a name. Yes, the little tasks become missions, but you learn patience, humor, and resourcefulness along the way. And honestly, that stubborn jar lid never stood a chance. Next, you realize that you start grieving more often. One of the hardest surprises about getting older is realizing just how much grief becomes a regular part of everyday life. When you're younger, grief shows up once in a while, like a thunderstorm in the summer. But as you age, it comes more frequently, like the changing of seasons. Friends, siblings, even old coworkers. You start losing people you thought would always be there. One person put it so well. Adulthood is realizing you'll attend more funerals than weddings. That is a sobering truth. And it's not just people you mourn. You also grieve places. The neighborhood diner that closed down where you had your first date. The old neighborhood that doesn't look the same anymore. Even the routines you used to take for granted. Sometimes you're just sitting there, minding your own business, and suddenly you're hit with this ache for a time in your life that's gone forever. That kind of grief can sneak in quietly and settle heavily on your chest. But here is the beautiful truth about grief. It doesn't just weigh on your heart. It teaches you how precious everything is. You stop taking people for granted. You hug a little longer. You say, "I love you," without hesitation. You laugh harder with friends because you know these moments are not infinite. Loss sharpens the edges of gratitude. I once knew a man in his 80s who told me that every morning he woke up, he made a point to call at least one person he loved, because he knew one day he wouldn't be able to, and he would hate for them to ever wonder if he cared. That sentiment really stuck with me. Grief makes life feel fragile, but it also makes it feel more urgent, more alive. You start living not to avoid loss, but to make every remaining moment count. Then there's the moment that the mirror becomes a stranger. Oh boy. You walk past it one morning, catch a glimpse, and think, who invited my father into my bathroom? It's jarring because, in your mind, you still feel 30. You still are 30 until the mirror says otherwise. The wrinkles, the sagging skin, the gray hair that seems to multiply overnight. It's like the mirror has its own cruel sense of humor. And don't even get me started on how your body changes. One day you bend over and notice a belly you swear wasn't there yesterday, or you put on your favorite shirt, and suddenly it doesn't fit the way it used to, even though you haven't gained a pound. A woman once joked online that her body wasn't gaining weight, it was just rearranging the furniture. And that's exactly how it feels. The hardest part is the internal disconnect. You're still the same person with the same energy, the same memories, the same mischievous spirit in your heart. But the outside doesn't always match. It can feel like you're looking at a stranger wearing your skin. But here is where perspective shifts. Over time, you stop seeing the wrinkles as flaws, and you start seeing them as proof. Proof that you've laughed, cried, endured, and survived. Each line is a story etched into your skin. The little scar on your forehead from the time you fell off your bike at 10 years old. The crow's feet from all those nights you laughed until you cried with your friends. Even the gray hair has its own charm. It's your body's way of saying you've earned this. And honestly, there's a certain freedom in letting go of the mirror. When you're younger, you spend so much time fussing over how you look, trying to impress, trying to be presentable. But when you get older, you realize you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You can throw on whatever's comfortable, smile at your reflection, and say, well, we made it this far. That's not defeat. That is pride. Besides, mirrors only tell half the truth. They show the outside, but not the spark in your eyes, the kindness in your voice, or the wisdom you carry. Those are the parts people actually remember. Ninth, we have the realization that your identity gets tested. One of the trickiest things about getting older is realizing that the version of you that you've known for decades starts to shift. For years, maybe even most of your life, you were defined by your job, your role in the family, or your physical abilities. You were the teacher, the provider, the mom, the guy who could fix anything in the garage. And then, retirement hits, or the kids move out, or your body decides ladders aren't your thing anymore, and suddenly you're staring at yourself in the mirror asking, so who am I now? It's like losing a name tag you've worn forever. You don't realize how much of your identity was tied to what you did until you're not doing it anymore. I once heard a man say that when he retired, he didn't just lose his paycheck, he lost his sense of purpose. That is a hard pill to swallow. But here's where it gets interesting. That identity shakeup is actually a profound chance to reinvent yourself. You've spent decades being who the world needed you to be. Now, you get to be who you want to be. Some people pick up painting. Others volunteer. Some dive headfirst into hobbies they never had time for. I knew one fellow who discovered YouTube at 70 and started making cooking videos for fun. The next thing he knew, he had thousands of subscribers cheering him on. Another woman turned her love for gardening into a neighborhood project where she taught kids how to grow vegetables. When your old labels peel away, it's scary at first, like being dropped into a world without a map. But it's also incredibly freeing. You're not boxed in anymore. You can build a new identity out of curiosity, joy, and the things that make your soul lighter. And you know what? That version of you might just be your favorite one yet. Finally, you realize that time is both short and precious. Here's the one that sneaks up on everyone. Time starts moving faster. I don't mean literally, of course, but it sure feels that way. Remember when summers as a kid felt endless? Now, whole years fly by like a single season. You blink, and suddenly you're asking, how is it already September? Wasn't it just Christmas? That realization that your time is limited is both the hardest and the most liberating part of aging. It's hard because, yes, it means acknowledging that you've got fewer tomorrows than you have yesterdays. That awareness can make you feel like the clock is ticking louder in the background of your days. But here's the twist. It also makes every moment shine brighter. Knowing time is short pushes you to focus on what truly matters. You stop putting off phone calls. You stop wasting energy on petty grudges. You start saying yes to the little adventures. An impromptu road trip, trying a new restaurant, dancing in the kitchen just because your favorite song came on. And you also start saying no more often to things that drain you, people who don't value you, obligations that don't fill your cup. One gentleman I knew said that when you're young, you think time is a bank account with unlimited funds. But when you're older, you realize it's more like a wallet. You see how much is left, and you choose carefully what you spend it on. That's exactly it. Aging makes you a lot wiser with your time budget. And strangely, that can be so freeing, because instead of trying to have it all, you zero in on what makes life meaningful. Whether that's family dinners, quiet mornings with a cup of tea, or chasing after a bucket list dream, you savor it. The fact that time is short is what makes it so precious. It's like gold. You wouldn't waste it on junk. You would hold it tight and pass it on where it matters most. So yes, getting older comes with the hard truths that time isn't infinite. But maybe that's the greatest gift of all, the nudge to live with urgency, honesty, and gratitude instead of waiting for someday. So yeah, aging isn't all sunshine and smooth sailing. There are aches, losses, changes, and plenty of moments that can catch you off guard. But you know what? It also strips away the nonsense. It forces you to live more honestly, laugh at the little things, and hold tight to the people who matter most. The way I see it, aging isn't about what you lose. It's about what you gain, a new perspective, a sharper sense of what's worth your time, and hopefully a whole lot more moments that make you smile. Even if your knees crack every time you stand up. If you connected with this, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this with someone who might need to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe so we can keep having these heart-to-heart conversations, because none of us are going through this alone. And the more we talk about it, the easier it gets. Until next time, take care of yourself, and don't forget to celebrate the little victories, like finally getting that pickle jar open.